Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters by Anfield Index. It is Monday, the 23rd of June, and what a week or so it's been. What a week it could be with all the rumours of incomings and outgoings going on. And I'm joined, returning, who maybe just picked one of the worst weeks to go away, but we'll still have plenty to write and talk about this week. He's back. David Lynch. I mean, David, you missed out on about 80 billion stories last week, didn't you?
Yeah, it's just classic, isn't it? I mean, usually under Jurgen or whatever, you'd kind of be, they're really quiet. Well, most summers were quieter and it wouldn't be like a flurry of stories straight at the start, but it just keeps coming, doesn't it? Every week seems to be busy. So you'd probably struggle this summer to get a week where it will be quiet and not much would happen. But not the best timed one, but not too gutted to get away and get a bit of a break as well. So it's been nice.
Yeah, it does feel like it'll be pretty relentless all the way from now till the start of the season, even through to the close of the window. So we'll see what it brings. But ladies and gents, we'll do what we normally do. We'll talk about the off-the-field matters, and don't worry, we'll talk about incomings and outgoings, of course. 1,000,001 things to get into. So we'll start, I suppose, off the field's probably the best place, the admin bits, as we'd say. And there's a lovely photo on the screen there of Arne Slot with what is rumoured to be his next assistant, the Johnny Heitinga replacement, former left wing back, you could say, for Barca and Arsenal, Giovanni van Bronckhorst, been in charge at Rangers previously and other Dutch clubs. This one seemed to explode all of a sudden from nowhere, David, but it's gone quiet. Is this just one because he's not coming from a club, it's just done? Are we waiting for developments on this one at all?
Yeah, I just don't think there's kind of much more to run with this story other than he's just going to turn up for the first day of pre-season, really. So, the way that was reported kind of seemed, and like I have to say, I haven't really been across this one because obviously I've been away, but like I say, reading into the reporting and reading between the lines, I think that one's pretty much done, to be honest. So don't think there's going to be an announcement. They're not going to be flying him in to do an interview, and he certainly doesn't need a medical or anything. So it's just going to be, like I say, he will be part of the coaching staff, or that's my expectation on the first day of pre-season. And yeah, I have to stay on this one. Bit of a surprise, to be honest. I thought there were a couple of other names who might be in the frame, who were more kind of assistant coaches, but they've managed to get someone who's been a manager very recently, done a good job in that. Someone who's kind of stepping down to come into this role, you would think, in terms of his responsibilities. So it feels like a big coup, to be honest. And like I say, not a name it was on my radar to think might be a possibility for this role. So it seems like a really good appointment and a strong response to losing Johnny Heitinga, who I know was like a highly rated member of that coaching staff. So, seems a really, really good appointment, but we won't be seeing, I don't think we'll be seeing much from him until pre-season starts.
True. Something tells me he's not going to be doing an interview with national TV for his dad, but we'll see if we get anything more around this one. What we also got last week as well, ultimately for all the transfer talk, it's the fixtures. It's on the pitch where Liverpool can win things. And we got them announced with the certain dates. Now, I'm still a bit unsure about this one. Opening day, Friday night, Friday the 15th of August. What do you make of Friday night football?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it's a little bit of a pain in terms of your weekend plans or whatever. So it does kind of eat into that. But that said, it leaves you Saturday and Sunday free. So that's always kind of a nice change, and that'll be good. So I'm not against it from that perspective, I guess. But it's just if you want to go for a pint on a Friday night, it's not the best. Although as someone who has a 2-year-old, I don't know why I'm talking about this. Like, that's a regular occurrence for me these days, to be honest. But I think as a spectacle, it's quite good. I'd say similarly about a kind of Saturday night kickoff. They're a bit painful when you get one, but the atmosphere tends to be good. People can have a few beers beforehand, and everybody's ready for it at the end of the working week. And like I say, the good atmospheres under the lights as well. So I'm not against them, and I think this one, I think everyone will be really excited for it. The start of the title defense. Obviously, there'll be a few new players in the team, bit of a new look squad, and everybody really looking forward to it. And that Anfield under the lights atmosphere is always special. So, I don't think it's a bad draw for Liverpool, actually, and obviously very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be a good one. And it's the Sunday Community Shield just before, so 2 games in a week to open the season. And I mean, we look at a few of them there. I mean, after Bournemouth, Newcastle away, then Arsenal at home. It's 2 of the, the big Champions League teams you could say there as well. Last season felt like, and I'm saying this, touch wood, and it can always unfold a different way. People described it as an easier start, shall we say. Are you a fan of the easier starts and the tougher teams a bit later, or get the tough ones out of the way first, you reckon?
I think it certainly worked for Liverpool last season, the way it fell, in terms of because they were under a new manager, they had to kind of find that rhythm and work their way through it.
Yeah.
I mean, they started really well, even in pre-season in terms of playing on a slot football. So it didn't take them long to adapt. But, I do think it was helpful that there weren't too many fixtures in that starting period. And this is not just something I'm saying after the fact. I think we discussed it at the time that it looked a kind start on paper, and so it proved really. So I do think that was helpful to build the momentum, and kind of Liverpool after that first 6 or 7 games got themselves in a position where they never really looked back, did they? And they were just kind of led from the front really from there. So it was helpful. I guess, this time slightly more tricky, and you've got to kind of say, well, okay, where are the upsides in that? And I guess it's that they have got a bit more rhythm this time. They know what the manager's expecting. I'd probably like to see a starting 11 for those first few games that's not got too many changes, too many new faces, try and hit the ground running and then bed people in. Although I expect Florian Wirtz will be part of the starting 11 given how much they paid. But not too many changes I think I'd like to see. But there's some trickier ones there. And you just hope, because full pre-season, everybody knows how this manager works now, that it will be, they are more capable of taking on these tougher fixtures first. And I kind of look at, I always think tough away games in your first tranche of fixtures are actually quite good, because typically when you're the team that goes away in a really tough one, you can kind of be expected to sit in, ruin the game, hit on the counter. And that's much easier to do against a team that's not in its best rhythm. So, Arsenal will be thinking when they come to Anfield, that's a good setup for us to do that. Liverpool won't be absolutely electric and pulling teams apart at this stage, as much as we hope they are. But equally, going to Newcastle, they won't be in their best rhythm. There's a chance there for Liverpool to be at the best. So you can kind of look at it a few ways, and there's just no doubt it's a little bit of a tougher start to this season, and you just hope that Liverpool can rise to that challenge, because, if you can, as much as an easy start played into the hands last time and they just absolutely flew for the rest of the season, if they can make a good start having come through this, there'll be kind of fixtures on the other side of it. And then all of a sudden you're in another run again, and there you go.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It will be interesting to see how it unfolds, but not too long to wait till Friday, the 15th of August. And in the meantime, I mean, John Henry seems to have found his wallet for us, doesn't he? All of a sudden, as people are tweeting and sharing opinions on. And actually, for FSG, this story came out the other week as well, that they're looking at Getafe. We've seen the non-starters at Bordeaux. Malaga seems to have gone quiet. Heard anything on this one, as if there's any realism this time around?
Yeah, again, I can't claim to have any kind of personal information on this one, because it's been while I've been away that it's broken. But it does kind of make sense. Again, it's a team. Well, I mean, they're not as much in kind of hard times as you maybe would have said that Bordeaux, where it's not that sort of situation. But obviously, they're in a top league, a league that doesn't have as much money swimming around as the Premier League. Would be a good place to base talents, give you an opportunity to kind of, like we said, one of the biggest reasons that this will be beneficial to Liverpool in a multi-club model is for signings like, although it's not worked out for him, but a Stefan Bajcetic, for example. You can't sign him now because of Brexit rules, whereas, if you could sign him for a Getafe, use him there, develop him, they get the benefit of that, they improve, and then, of course, then you can do the deal to bring him to Liverpool. Then it, in theory, kind of works for everyone. So, seems an interesting one there. So, like I say, not personally got any information on that one, but it's it's going to have to happen at some point, because the whole point of Michael Edwards being there is that he's going to oversee this multi-club model. So they've been putting the feelers out for a while, and this is the latest opportunity that comes up. So hopefully maybe this is the one that they get over the line, because I think they want to start working towards that, particularly there's noises about Michael Edwards' future, and I wonder. I'm thinking about that. This is just purely speculation, but I wonder where that story maybe came from his side, just to put a bit of pressure on to get that multi-club model moving. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but it's interesting timing on that one, isn't it? And hopefully they can move forward with that, and we see how it all works.
It's funny, in the same sort of week where Julian Ward linked with the sporting director role at Newcastle as well. So maybe the cynical side makes you wonder. We'll see if anything develops with this one. And I suppose the final reel off the field matter, the PFA Awards, the shortlist for the Players' Player of the Year were announced. And it's great to see two Reds there, Alexis McAllister, Mo Salah, quite rightly. I've got to be honest on this, though. No Virgil van Dijk. That's just a travesty, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's surprising because it's the players as well, and they're usually a bit better at reading these kind of things and coming up against them. I wonder with Van Dijk, is it's just become the situation where everybody's so used to how good he is that it's almost boring to mention it, and that he's just been this excellent for such a long time that the players don't even think to vote for him, and he kind of slips down the pecking order on that basis. But it is nice to see. Obviously, Salah was a no-brainer. Everyone was going to vote for him, and rightly so. But it is nice to see McAllister get noticed because I just think he's unbelievable. I know there's a whole kind of subsection on Twitter, isn't there, who don't think he's very good or he's going to be the first one that comes out of that midfield. I mean, I just don't know what games these people are watching. I just think he's without doubt Liverpool's most important midfielder and one of the most important players, full stop. He's just brilliant at everything that you might ask in the centre of the pitch, and therefore brilliant at everything that constitutes being a footballer. So, really nice to see that other teams and other players have recognised that, really, because, Salah was an easy one, but McAllister's, it's good to see that they recognise that.
And it should really be a clean sweep for Mo in all the awards, but we'll see how the voting goes. And I suppose this kind of falls in off the field matters, but you may or may not remember this, and it's kind of just looks like it's peeking into screen on your shot. But do you remember about a year ago, before the season started, if we were successful with one of the big prizes, someone dug this out for us quite happily. But do you remember what you pledged, possibly involving a guitar, if we were to be successful for one of the big pots? Do you remember that at all?
No, I don't remember at all, Dave. Don't remember any of that at all.
Well, it's lucky that we've got video evidence stored for such an occasion. We won't play it just now, but all we'll say is in the next few weeks before the season starts, as per a few Lewis Steele suggestions, you might want to get the guitar fingers ready. So just have that prepared. So are we kept up to date? Are we ready for the latest tunes? Have you heard Lewis Steele's suggestions for you even?
I've not, and I don't want to know what he's suggesting because I guess it's terrible. But I don't know why I said that at the time because I'm so embarrassed about the thought of it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe just dig out some old videos of me playing and maybe put those out somewhere or something like that, just to keep the mob off my back about that. But really am full of regrets about suggesting I would do that. Yeah.
There's even transfer rumours that he's in talks with Ian Doyle's band about a collab, but we'll see what goes on there at the same time. So that is, ladies and gents, all your off-field news. But I know everyone is talking about this and the chat panel's buzzing already with the incomings, the outgoings. So we'll get to the transfer side. I mean, Florian Friday, I know you're away. I know you've caught up and watched all the various things like me, read all the interviews. We shouldn't undersell just how good Florian Friday was, should we?
No, it's just a massive signing, isn't it? Probably Liverpool's most high-profile signing of the modern era. The biggest talent that they've got, who has the biggest standing in world football at the moment. He's signing. We've said Thiago was maybe that in recent years, but obviously he was kind of he was the back end of his career because he retired at Liverpool essentially, and Liverpool didn't see the best of him because of the injury reasons, and where he was up to with his contract was a part of the factor of how they managed to sign him as well. So whereas this, I mean, it's absolutely huge money, a potential British transfer record for a 22-year-old who has seemingly got the world at his feet and is now, in theory, going to give his best years to Liverpool. It's absolutely humongous, really. And you're a bit wary about, you probably don't want to go over the top on this stuff because the game is played on grass, and you look at some of Chelsea's signings recently that they've talked up who've gone on to be absolutely terrible. You don't want to get too excited about it, but Liverpool are good at these, and I just think everything about this guy points to him being a success here. So it's absolutely huge, and I liked a lot of what he said in his interview. Thought he came across really well, and I think it's just one to get excited about, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing him when pre-season starts.
I mean, there was so much to like about what he said. There was almost a seriousness, but understated in a way. But just for those that have missed it, I mean, I love this quote. I would like to win everything every year. And he talked about the Premier League and he talked about the Champions League. He almost, I don't know if you agree with this, he almost seems a little bit like, not in a bad way, I mean this, quite a serious, a focused character. He's chosen Liverpool over the likes of Bayern Munich, Manchester City, Real Madrid. He's making it clear, Florian Wirtz, he's come here to win, isn't it? He's really almost, it sounds a bit Salah-esque almost, the way he talks.
Yeah, it just sounds like elite mentality, really. And, I think it shows you a lot that he's made a kind of sporting decision as well in terms of what he wanted. He would have got paid more money at Man City, he would have got paid more money at Bayern. Real Madrid were never making a serious push this window, but have been interested in recent seasons. So, and again, he would have got more money there. So clearly what he wanted to do was to kind of take on a challenge that would get the best out of him in an individual basis, but also be part of a team that would win. And the two things go hand in hand. And he looked at Liverpool, who've just won the title despite changing the coach, but a team that's been very successful in recent years and very unlucky not to have won a little bit more, actually. And thought that was the right destination for him to do that. And I think that is hugely encouraging. I think it says a lot about him on a personal level, about what he is as a character, that he's chosen Liverpool over maybe a little bit more money elsewhere. But I also think it says a lot about Liverpool and their standing now. So, I've seen a little bit on social media, kind of the debates around. I wrote a piece before I went away on Substack about, the FSG debate kind of being over now, and people saying, well, they're just acting the way that they should have done all the time. But for me, I don't think you can make this signing 5 years ago. I don't think you can make it 6-7 years ago. I just think the infrastructure's not there. He doesn't come and train with Bayer Leverkusen at Kirby and see how amazing it is, the facilities, how good the setup is, how focused it is on elite level. He doesn't come to Anfield and see, wow, these 2 extra stands, it's absolutely massive. It's an incredible place to play football these days. And he doesn't see a Liverpool team that is winning consistently either, because that has only happened in recent years and has taken a slow build to get there. And then now, Liverpool, and also Liverpool possibly couldn't afford him a few years ago as well, because they're making big sales like Coutinho to fund a lot of transfers back then. Then you look at kind of now, whereas they can make this purchase without sales because commercial revenue has gone like that. It's crazy how much it's gone up in comparison to, say, Manchester United. You look at what they've done with match day revenue, and they've just positioned the club to be in the place now where it's an attractive destination to Florian Wirtz. It's a good place for a sporting basis, but it's got all the infrastructure there as well in terms of the ground, the training ground, all those aspects. And they've got the money now because of the huge growth that they've engendered off the field. So it's kind of a perfect storm that's come together to Liverpool. For me, now being in a position now, finally, after these years of kind of working forward slowly under FSG, where they can really grasp the crown back as the biggest club in English football, that's the place that they've put themselves in. So, and I just think this signing, without putting too much pressure on it, because it may not work out for whatever reason, is a real signal of kind of the direction of travel that Liverpool are heading in, really, and how far they've come in the last sort of 10 years or so. So it's it's an absolutely massive statement, really.
It does feel that way, and they say, fingers crossed, it all bears out on the field. And I mean, the other story that could it say got ignored a little bit, but maybe fell to the wayside a bit because of all the other stuff. Liverpool did reach agreement for Milos Kerkez. I know you tweeted out, first one out the blocks this morning, scheduled to fly into Liverpool this afternoon, the finishing touches to his £40 million move. So we're expecting a kind of, again, another interview with him sometime sort of Tuesday, Wednesday, realistic?
Yeah, I don't think the announcement will be today because he's only flying in this afternoon. So to get the medical done and the interviews and everything, I think will probably run into tomorrow. Wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. But yeah, that's the expectation that it's going to be these next couple of days. So yeah, another one in the door, more money spent, but an area of the team that I think did definitely need to be upgraded this summer, really, at left back. So good to see that they're making moves towards that, and he is an exciting player. I did a deep dive into him, and it's interesting. He's kind of, the one area of concern I had over him really was his attacking output. We've already seen actually over the course of last season, there's been an improvement there, and he's getting better, and he's still only very, very young as well. So, great engine on him, really good defender as a starting point as well, and getting better in the attacking aspect. So a lot to like about this signing. Liverpool have worked efficiently to get it done. And again, it's another one where they've been the most appealing destination to the player for all the multitude of reasons that I mentioned previously. So yeah, very, very good that they're getting this one over the line. And yeah, good start to the week as well. I'm pretty pleased with myself to get in with that one, with that story as a starting point on Monday morning as well.
I suppose the only other thing I wanted to ask you about Kerkez, and I never thought I'd be asking you this. You've probably seen the interview he and his dad did with Serbian television. Have we ever seen anything like that before at all?
No, it's a strange one, isn't it? And it kind of makes you a little bit worried, because what if he wants to go to Real Madrid in a few years and starts to act in a similar way? I don't love all that kind of stuff, but I mean, look, people are different. Culturally, people are different. You've probably got to kind of accept that sometimes. Sometimes they'll be honest. I mean, we've seen it from Slot this season, for example, some honesty that maybe people have thought, oh, that's very different to Jurgen or whatever. So, and I don't think there's been a kind of clear disrespect of Bournemouth, because I think there's always been a clear direction of travel in those talks, which is that Liverpool haven't been trying to put the pressure on and saying he only wants us and we're going to lowball you. I think there's always been, okay, can we just knock you down slightly from 45 million, and then everybody's kind of happy to shake hands on it, really. So I don't think it's been a kind of, like I say, a case of disrespecting. And yeah, seems a confident and an honest character, similarly to his dad, and maybe that's part of the reason he's an elite sportsman. And yeah, if he stays at Liverpool for a long time and wins a lot of trophies, then we'll forget about all this, I guess.
Yeah, if he's a successful left back, that is all that matters. And I mean, sticking in defence, we'll talk about outgoings, of course, shortly, but probably the big one, the big name that's come up from various sources, with it looking like being one out, Mark Guehi keeps being mentioned, doesn't it? Potential cut price move from Crystal Palace, England international, centre-back coming in. I suppose from what you're hearing, from what's come out, are you expecting Liverpool to make that move, maybe if the price is right?
Yeah, a lot's going to depend on kind of what happens with Palace's demands around that. I mean, they were very, very firm with Newcastle, weren't they? The last time there was a bit of a transfer saga around Guehi, and they'll say that they were completely justified in doing that, with having gone on to qualify for Europe and of course win the FA Cup. But it's, obviously their position now is further weakened, isn't it? Obviously they've only got 1 year left on his contract now, so it's a case of, do you want to take him into Europe and get that one season, or do you need the money? Or, we've seen Liverpool take the decision that the money's not always worth it, and sometimes you will ride them to the end of the contract. But obviously, Palace don't generate as much cash. It's a bit more of a difficult call for them to make. And also, if Guehi's keen, do you want to really stand in his way as well? So there's a few decisions for them to make, but it feels like one where compromise will be possible. But it's kind of early stages at the moment in terms of working out where they stand with that. And Palace will want to get a decent chunk of money for him. So, we see how that one progresses, really. It's but he's an interesting name. He's a good player, and going to be doing a deep dive into him on YouTube and slightly later today as well, if anyone wants to watch that. So picked out a few interesting things from that. So, yeah, he's an interesting name. And, yeah, one Liverpool definitely interested in, but we'll see whether it gets done or not.
Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts on whether it's him, Canate, and we'll come to the outgoing section a bit later. But I suppose sticking on the centre half, a few of the patch journalists have been saying this, and just pulling this from Lewis Steele's Twitter account, he's mentioned actually the main goal was to sign a young defender who could eventually replace VVD, as much as we're talking about Mark Guehi and a few others have mentioned it. I'm guessing it's similar things that you're hearing from the club or from that side as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it in the names that have come out for the last few months, really. There's so many of those kind of 21, 22, 19, 20, that kind of age of centre-half that have been linked to Liverpool. So they're quite clearly looking in that market, really. I mean, it's interesting to me that Diamande has been linked to Palace, who is someone I thought Liverpool might kind of think about as sort of that long-term centre-half, really. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. And I can't quite kind of work out at the moment whether... is Guehi interest separate to this? Is it maybe linked to a kind of, is Joe Gomez, where's he up to at the moment? Very, very hard to say. And then you still sign your young centre-half alongside that. It's quite hard to kind of unpick that one at the moment, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I think it's, Guehi himself is still kind of younger, isn't he? So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go with that. Obviously, Hato's someone they do like. He can play left back as well. So if you end up selling 2 left backs, that makes you think he can, cover it in a couple of positions. So I think Hato's one to keep an eye on. I know he mentioned Lekebra there as well, actually. Yeah. I had some information yesterday that there hasn't been any contact just yet with Lekebra, so or his camp as of kind of yesterday. So I don't think anything's moving on that one. But again, he's probably someone who's on the radar given age, likely price point, who he plays for, that kind of thing. He's on the radar, but nothing's kind of moving on that one at the moment, I'd say. So yeah, not one I can kind of give anything kind of concrete on at the moment, but we'll kind of see how things work out as they develop.
It does also feel like you alluded to, before anyone definitely comes out, stuff's going to have to move. There's the Joe Gomez question as well at the same time, and if Mark Guehi seems more likely, we'll wait and see if anything develops with any other centre half. And I suppose the forward situation is always the most interesting, and this name just won't come away. And everyone keeps saying the same thing, isn't it? And even this week, stories on the Newcastle Liverpool side, it's still the case that Isak is clearly Liverpool's dream target, as Romano and others quoted, but it's just still unlikely right now, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't want to kind of be too down on this because, there's clearly... It's not impossible on the basis that, you're hearing about it so much. I don't think it's been completely slammed down on the Newcastle side, certainly not by multiple journalists saying it's totally impossible. And if there was kind of a joint brief like that would head out, then you'd think, okay, they're really not going to sell. So, you ally that to the fact that Liverpool are clearly very interested, as they should be, and they feel like the money will be there maybe to do a deal like that, because if Nunez leaves, if Diaz leaves, and the money's right on those fronts, then the money's there to do a deal like this. But I still kind of hold on to that skepticism. A lot about this window has already kind of surprised me, if I'm honest. I think a lot's going out the window of the things I used to assume on the basis of how things were working under Jurgen Klopp. So I don't want to rule this one out for all those reasons, really. But it's kind of hard to brush off the skepticism about this one coming off, because so many things have to happen and have to go for Liverpool for it to work. So Darwin Núñez has to go for a decent fee, which, it's more looking like European interest than Saudi interest at the moment, which makes that difficult to raise a certain amount of money. Obviously, Luis Diaz, does he want to go to Saudi? Is that bid going to come in? Does that come together? Liverpool aren't kicking him out the door, but if it's right, then that starts to move. Then you do raise the money, and then you've got that availability there to spend. But so those things have got to come together from the Liverpool side of things for it to happen. But then also, Newcastle have just got into the Champions League. They just won a trophy. He's got 3 years remaining on his contract. They've got no reason to kind of cut a deal at anything even close to reasonable for arguably the best centre forward in the league. So it just looks really, really difficult to do. And I know I don't want to be that guy who's kind of playing down because or saying there's no chance. I just think it's difficult. We kind of have to be realistic about that. Maybe we get a nice surprise. Maybe Núñez goes to Saudi, Diaz goes to Saudi. The money's crazy for both, and then all of a sudden Liverpool can go a bit higher than he might have thought for Isak. but they will also have a limit on what they'll want to go to as well, and what Newcastle will deem worthwhile for them to do. Because obviously, like I say, there's that 3 years on the contract, and for Liverpool, they will have in the back of their minds the injury record. If we sign him for anything over 150 million and then he starts to pick up more injuries, that's a bit of a problem. So just a lot of things there that make me think, it's possible, yes, and they'd love to do it, but is it doable? I just find it very, very hard to see. But I think at the moment, if you want to hold out hope, it's very early in the window and things change really quickly and things change all the time. And the interest is definitely there in doing the deal. So, a long way to go to I certainly wouldn't be sitting here ruling it out, but it's, a lot has got to come together, as I say.
And probably another one, I don't know if we can't rule it out as well, similar, this name just seems to have come back to the fore. I mean, it looked like Ekitike was heading to Chelsea, but he said he's turned them down, and quite a few suggestions that he's almost waiting to see what happens with Liverpool. Is this still in the, similar to Isak, you can't rule Ekitike out just yet?
Yeah, no one at Liverpool is ruling him out at the moment, which, sometimes if there's a nonsense link around, they will kind of just happily shut that down. So no one's doing that with Ekitike. And again, I'd be in a position here where kind of, if Isak's the dream target that, previous years, Liverpool would have just said it's him or nobody. We're going to sit tight. We're not going to do anything. But as I say, this window keeps surprising me. I think the way this recruitment staff is operating, I'm kind of having to learn again about how they work and what their kind of approach to the window might be. So it could easily be, and I would have said in the past, if they can't get Isak, they won't do anything. It could easily be that they can't get Isak and they say, well, actually, we're going to go for Ekitike. We think he's got the qualities to thrive for us. So it's an absolutely fascinating one, really, with this. I just think you can't rule him out, but we kind of don't know, which way they're going to go on this, really. And there's definitely been contact on the player side. I can vouch for that 100%. But in terms of it turning into anything, still seems kind of early days in the window. And I know for a fact that Liverpool would like to get a couple out the door in attack before they sign anyone else there. So we will have to see movement on Núñez, potentially on Diaz as well. Chiesa is a one who looks likely to leave as well. So there will have to be some outgoings there before we see any movement on incomings in the forward line. So Ekitike, Isak maybe be parked till later in the summer.
Will be interesting to see how they look at that number 9. And I mean, we're speaking at number 9. There's other patch journals, your colleagues saying things like Liverpool are also looking at a versatile young attacker, one that could specifically, and I know Paul Gorster said this, Lewis Steele, across the front line options. And even this morning, there's names coming out. Malik Fofana there, linked by Sasha Tavlieri. Anthony Gordon's name won't go away. I mean, it's still crazy to say, but it's still possible. The forward line is really going to look possibly very different than it does right now.
Yeah, again, this is the aspect of it that's really surprising me. I mean, I think I've been saying on this podcast for a while, I think they'll want to limit turnover. I can't imagine them completely ripping things up and starting again. But I just think with every link that comes out, you don't want to buy too much into kind of, there's been a transfer link, that means this is happening. But it just a lot of everything you're kind of hearing is that there's a lot of these links that there is going to be something in them in terms of outgoings and the incomings as well. So, it is. I do think they're just very much of a mindset that they are happy to kind of rip it up, which it's just a huge step change from what we've been used to, really. And, it does make sense for them to look for that versatile attacker, whether that's instead of just an out-and-out striker. Yeah. I kind of wonder. And again, this is speculating because it's quite hard because it's early in the window and not everything's concrete at the moment outside of this first few transfers that they knew they were going to do. But it's really interesting in terms of what the approach is kind of, if you can't get Isak and they don't think that's possible, do they feel that Ekitike is too raw and then they think, well, okay, we just get the best possible forward that we can get. And then, is that already Florian Wirtz and you play him in a false 9, or is it kind of, and Anthony Gordon comes back onto the table and you kind of move back for him and kind of use him all across the front line to make sure everybody's getting games. It's like I say, it's really, really difficult to kind of work out what they're doing. And I think for Fofana, by the way, the talk there of him being a Chiesa replacement, who's going to want to come and do that role at the moment? You know, that's
Right.
what's that, like kind of 300 minutes across the season total, barely any Premier League appearances. You know, if Liverpool's fitness record continues as it is, do they need 6 forwards or 6 frontline forwards who are like established internationals? I'm not entirely sure. So that's another element to consider as well, is whether are they really going to go into next season with 6 forwards? I don't know, because, you know, 5 plus maybe giving Rio and Gamoa more time in the League Cup, etc., to me seems a more sensible approach. But yeah, like I say, I keep getting surprised constantly in this window, so we will see.
Yeah, just there's no way of guessing the final numbers in or out right now. We'll see how it all develops. And he's
Sorry,
right to talk about.
just to come in on that, actually. Sorry, Kathy there mentions in the comments about kind of AFCON, the disruption of that. It's already been said, by the way. So we're thinking about forwards being signed, etc. And Chiesa would clearly have played more in that situation. But Liverpool were absolutely adamant that this is a position that Jeremy Frimpong can play going forward. So again, you've got to kind of consider that, looking at the forward options, he is an option there and he can play there. He's not necessarily going to be the starting right back every week. I think Conor Bradley's going to play a lot of games, and I think there's potential for Frimpong to play the odd game in that kind of right wing role. So again, you know, could you see them really, even if they sell Diaz, Nunes, Chiesa, can you see them adding Ekitike, you know, on top of Wirtz, who they've already got, and then another forward, and then another forward on top? You know, it starts to become too much. I think Frimpong is going to be an option on that right hand side, so that is also worth factoring in.
It's just so hard to predict what's going to happen, but there's plenty of links there. And on the other side, there's a sadness to this from some people. There's a mixed from others. Jarell Quansah, we kind of got the official here we go yesterday, late last night, didn't we? Bayer Leverkusen, 35 million package, but also the key thing to quote, a buyback in the deal, apparently. I know Louis Steele and others that have put that out there at the same time as well. What are your thoughts and feelings around Liverpool selling Quansah, the fee, the buyback, everything that comes into it?
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of sad. You've got a local lad there who's come through the academy and looked like he had the world at his feet last summer, and then it's just kind of fallen apart from him a little bit under the new manager, hasn't it? And he's just not looked the same. I mean, you know, he's not suddenly a terrible player. It's just, he just clearly needs minutes and regular minutes to be the best version of himself, and he isn't going to get that at Liverpool. So this is a move that makes sense for everyone. The fee's decent. I'd say getting a buyback is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, whether Liverpool, it feels unlikely to me that Liverpool will ever trigger that, really. It doesn't happen incredibly often in football, does it? But to have that option when he could really develop at Bayer Leverkusen and show what he's all about, it's you know, great business to have got that done, really. So it's sad that it's kind of not worked out for him at Liverpool this time, but maybe we'll see him again. And also, I think for him, in terms of his prospects of getting in the England squad and showing just how good a talent he is, because he is, let's not forget that. This is a really, really smart move for him. So I really hope it works out.
And a centre-half I never thought we'd be talking about even all this time later, but it looks like Nat Phillips may be off to a permanent deal to West Brom. I mean, it will be a small amount in the grand scheme of elite football, but just there's almost a niceness that we're freeing Nat Phillips as though this is like a nationwide campaign after all this time.
Yeah, no, yeah. I've still found it strange down the years that he hasn't been able to get a move, because he's clearly good enough. You know, he's not Liverpool level, but he's a decent centre half. He's not the quickest, but a lot of centre halves aren't. He wins his headers. He's tidy enough on the ball, as that little Cruyff turn in the San Siro proves. So I just don't think he's a bad player, and I've seen people do him down a lot, but I don't really kind of agree with that. I think there's a decent player in there that should have been playing at a decent level for much longer. So something like West Brom would be good for him, I think. I do wonder, Liverpool, with that kind of contract they handed out to him after the season where he helped them get top 4, whether there might have been a little bit regret around that because of how long he's kind of stuck around after and how much they've struggled to move him on. But I think he's very much loved by Liverpool fans, and they'll want to see him go on and do well elsewhere. And I'm confident that he will, because I think he's a good player.
Yeah, just feel like he just needs to move on for everyone's sake. And I suppose, speaking of players we don't want to move on, This was in The Guardian this morning about Ibu Konate, and the latest round of talks don't seem to have been that fruitful with Liverpool. I mean, it doesn't look good, all the noise, all the signs, but I still think, and I know you've mentioned it before, Guehi, anything aside, it just makes sense to keep him for the year, doesn't it? Whatever, just to give ourselves the best shot of winning as many trophies as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very much of that mindset. I mean, particularly with all the turnover that we're already talking about, it just, for me, even if things aren't going too well on the contract talks or whatever, as a basic starting point, he should be here for next season regardless. I think we said, we kind of said similar around Mo Salah, didn't we? That, going into the season, same with Van Dijk, really, is that, no matter what, even if they don't sign, just keep them, because it gives you the best chance of being the best possible team. So I think if you want to defend the title this season, then, Konate sticking around is an absolute must. So I'm pretty sure that will be the approach, because Liverpool have got enough to do in the market. And you are hopeful as well that they do sort these contract talks out, because, he's an excellent player who's only going to get better as well. So really hope they can get past this impasse and sort it out. And if not, then one more year of Konate would be a big boost for Liverpool in terms of trying to win the big trophies again next season.
I know, and I'm seeing it in the chat panel already about, but you've got to put a line in the sand, sell him. Real Madrid, PSG would be interested. But is the reality with a year left, they're going to lowball Liverpool, aren't they, realistically? And actually, for the amount they get, they'll probably look into that factor as well.
That's it. The trade-off's going to be there for Liverpool, which is kind of, look at, you're going to want to give up the potential for winning the Premier League. Because I do think if you certain amount of change that they're going to submit themselves to, and particularly in defence where it's all about partnerships and things, it's kind of, okay, do you want, I don't know what the last year of a contract offer would be, kind of thing, but so it's hard to kind of scale, but this amount of money, X amount of money, or do you want to have a real crack at winning both the big trophies next season? And Liverpool will say, with the amount of cash they generate, the amount of players that they've elected to allow, to leave on freeze down the years, they're very much comfortable with that. They're absolutely fine about it. So, I don't think that, that will be, getting a cut price fee from Real Madrid or whatever will be something they're absolutely desperate to do. I think they'll be all about maximising the opportunities to win trophies and still be hopeful that they can get a contract sorted in this next year or so as well. So, it would make no sense for me to let him go.
Yeah, that's the centre-back talk, and there's a million things going on with that one.
It's popping off in the chat panel about when Nat Phillips' contract expires. I don't actually have it to hand now, but one thing I would say is people do this all the time, is they read transfer marked as if it means anything. And I can tell you now, they got so many contract end dates incorrect. And so I would not listen to that one at all, to use contract information. I'm not, like I say, I've not got to hand Nat Phillips information at the moment, but I can promise you now, don't read that as gospel, because very often it's not. And there's players who you think are leaving on a free from Liverpool this summer who definitely had contract left. I keep constantly getting told by people that Vítězslav Jaroš's contract somehow expired this summer, despite the fact that he's now gone on loan to Ajax. So yeah, don't get your contract information from there.
Yeah, I wouldn't believe that either as well. And speaking of jumping to the other end of the field, Darwin Núñez. Now, it's probably almost not what we want to hear, but the Napoli links from their side keep coming up. Romano also mentioning that he's their dream side and they won't even move on until they know it's a no with Darwin Núñez. But I suppose the big thing, we've talked about the Saudis in the past, Atletico Madrid, all those types of things. Napoli are not going to give Liverpool a fee that fans or us will be idealising, will they?
That's it. It's just very hard to see them putting up the sort of money that people would have hoped for when you saw those kind of Saudi links, really. And again, a kind of fee that would allow you to go out and get Alexander Isak as well. So, not ideal, really, that it's the European club circling. I mean, there's still potential for that Saudi interest to come back. That was big at one point. So, every opportunity for one of the clubs, at least in that league, to maybe come back in for him. And I guess at the end of the day, as much as, Napoli don't have the spending power of a Premier League club, they still should be expecting to pay a decent amount for a forward like Nunes, who, while he struggled at Liverpool, his goal record is still decent. And, he's been decent in the past. And, I think he'd go there to a weaker, slower league and probably rip it up a little bit with his pace. So, that they won't be giving him away. So as much as Napoli might be interested and they're kind of driving that story, Liverpool won't just give him away just to get him off the books. So, they'll want a decent fee. So, we shouldn't be maybe too worried about that in terms of, but of course it does make you think that it's slightly easier, isn't it, to drive a bit more money out of the Saudi clubs, that's for sure.
Yeah, and there's various reports, isn't there, around the swap deal with Chiesa, Victor Osterman coming the other way. So we'll find out soon enough if there's anything in that one. And I've kind of not got him on the screen because we've talked about him before, but Andy Robertson, this one comes out. Actually, probably worth talking about because it seems like there's a bit of a reversal of hokey cokey because it seemed like all the suggestions were he's really keen. It almost had a sense of inevitability. But then the noises from Liverpool, various patch journos to walk it back, saying he's still making his decision. Have you got any latest or updates around this one at all?
Yeah, so I did this story just before I went on holiday, so I feel like I'm a little bit more across this one. My information at the time was he's just considering his options, not one that was being shot down on his side of things, so not one where he was saying I'm definitely staying or anything like that. But it wasn't either that I'm definitely going to Madrid and I want to live there and those sorts of things. It's kind of seen as a big decision, and I believe he's been on, well, obviously, of course, like all the players, he's been on holiday this week. He's been away. I think he was in Portugal. I guess it's kind of decision time is coming up for him, really, and he's weighing it up with his family. So, nothing moving as of today on that one as things stand. But it's one of those, once he makes his decision, it will move pretty quickly and negotiations will move forward. And then it's about, will Atletico pay the kind of fee that Liverpool are looking for? We will kind of have to see, but I don't think we've got a kind of concrete move from him either way yet in terms of whether he wants to go or not. So, it's just an interesting one to keep an eye on.
Are you expecting that to be soon? Because naturally we're thinking Kerkez announced this week. That almost brings a sense of reality to it for Robbo. Do you think he'll make a decision quite soon from now?
I don't think that should be too influential because he's known this is coming for a while, hasn't he? Really, it's not come as a surprise to him that Kerkez is signing. I mean, that's been trailed for months, hasn't it? So, I think he's had time now to think about it. As I say, he's been on holiday with his family and time to really think out what the next move is for them and how that'll play out and whether it's right for them. So there's no kind of urgency, but I guess from Atletico's side is they want an experienced left back, don't they? Someone who's played in the Premier League seems to be part of their kind of requirement for that for some reason. So I guess they might be putting on pressure his side, but it's totally up to him, and I can't get in his head and know what he's thinking. We'll just have to see what he decides.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. I mean, even now looking that there's even Harvey Elliott to Brighton stories coming up. We'll see if anything develops on that one. Maybe the attackers that we talked about. This is even coming up from the German side. Potential that Cody Gakpo and Luis Diaz could be targets for Bayern Munich. I mean, Gakpo's been linked before. Diaz now seems to come into the mix. You still, just aside from Florian Wirtz and Mo Salah, you still cannot guarantee any set forward is at Liverpool next season just yet, can you?
Yeah, it's interesting with Gakpo because I just think, again, if huge money came in for him, it'll give Liverpool the decision to make. But they're not going to want, again, not going to want to do too much. There is surely going to be some limit on the turnover there. His contract situation isn't like Diaz as well, so it's not kind of decision making time either, is it? And he seems happy and settled at Liverpool, working under a Dutch coach who really likes him and has played him a lot. I'd just be surprised if he really kind of pushed for that move or Liverpool felt like they were put into a corner where they have to sell him or anything like that. So, that one feels much further away maybe than a Diaz departure at the moment in terms of the likeliness of them. So, there might be an interest there. And you can see clearly that that Bayern are looking for a left winger. But Gakpo, I struggle to really kind of see that one coming off, to be honest, because I think it'd have to be insane money for Liverpool to have to put themselves in a position where they have to replace him as well with potential Diaz and Nunez departures. It just becomes a bit crazy, really. So, not one I'm putting a lot of faith in at the moment.
It is hard to know to definite. And Luis Diaz, there's still those question marks around the contract and potential Saudis coming back in. I mean, the final question to sort of piece this all together and finish this, even as we sit here on Monday, the 23rd of June, when we're set to do this in a week's time on the 30th of June, the last day, that's the PSR deadline as well. So many things could have happened. We just can't be surprised by what's going on at the moment a little, can we?
Yeah, I've kind of forgot about that as well, actually, is that this next week or so, obviously for Liverpool, PSR is not really something they have to think of, but there might be opportunities that pop up in the same way. The Anthony Gordon story a couple of summers ago, that came out of nowhere and was because Newcastle were under pressure. What teams in the Premier League or across Europe are kind of feeling a bit of pressure in that. It would be really interesting, because it could be a little bit of a late flurry and some really surprising kind of sales being made to make things right for PSR. So potentially some bargains for Liverpool to pick up. So this week could be really interesting. A few little surprises in there.
Yeah, it will be fascinating to see how it all unfolds. But there we go, ladies and gents. So many things going on off the field, incomings and outgoings. There's just no way to say for certain what will happen. But what we can say is he needs to warm up his guitar and have that ready. So back in the groove, back to normal. All it leaves me to say as ever is, David, for the time, the insight and answering all the questions. It is much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
And ladies and gents, that was another Media Matters.